everybody. This is attendance submission week 5 on Red Sky in the Morning. So this one wasn't very long. It was only a couple of pages. But it is very moving. And it's a great example of a creative nonfiction piece. It's by Patricia Hampel, and it starts off with her reminiscing on another point in life where she's sitting on a bus and she wakes up and she sees a moment. And this moment is a particularly intimate moment between two different individuals. There's a woman kissing a man. However, the man is significantly younger than her, and as the author describes it, very handsome. And the woman is significantly older than him and described as homely, almost as if she would have looked like his mother. But they were embraced in a very intimate mouth-to-mouth kiss. So at first, it's actually a very shocking beginning. But she jumps right into it, really not getting around it in the first paragraph, and even emphasizes with italics he was kissing her, describing this young godlike man with golden curls and her shock for a full-on kissing this woman in a flowered house dress. So I think that's super. It's kind of funny. It's funny in its shocking nature. So then the woman gets on the bus and the man stays outside of the bus, and the woman is like waving goodbye to him, and he's just like going haywire outside, like blowing her kisses. And this woman, Hampel, we're assuming that Miss Patricia might be the actual experiencer of this, is just baffled. She's just like, what am I seeing? What is going on here? And then the woman sits down right next to her, and she begins to have this discussion with her, trying to describe what's going on. It's interesting. It was an interesting introduction and connection to what her actual point of the piece was. So it ends up almost being like an expository essay or a descriptive essay, borderline persuasive when it comes to possibly even trying to encourage this form of writing style, because it's just a great style. But she starts with this shocking hook of this shocking story, literally a full kiss on the mouth, with these two shocking people. And then so she immediately sets the scene, immediately introduced the characters, immediately introduced the story, and backed the story up with one quote that the woman said to her after she asked what this relationship was with this young man. Oh, the stories I could tell you. So the whole essay or creative nonfictional piece starts with that line, is inspired with that line, oh, the stories, I could tell you stories. And then she describes what the woman does. The woman, she put her arms snugly around her bag, gazed for a moment, apparently made pensive by her remark. Then she closed her eyes and fell asleep. So you're immediately transported into a conversation with an older woman, but then this older woman was just making out with this very young man. So for any reader, this is like a very interesting, where is she going with this? But she pulls away from the romantic relationship and then focuses exactly on what the woman said. And here comes the reason for the title, Red Sky in the Morning, Sailor Take Warning, the old caution. She is noticing the color of the sky as they're leaving, and she recognizes the sign of famous sailors' quotes, someone whose dream is to one day sail the world. I love that this is the reference, but it is Red sky in the morning, sailors take warning. Meaning, if the morning sky is red on the horizon, then sailors need to take warning for that day, because that means there's a storm on the way. But the whole quotation is red skies at night, sailors delight. Red skies in the morning, sailors take warning. So it's just a very interesting mnemonic device for remembering what the weather signifies for certain things for sailors, specifically sailing conditions for the day. So while she's noticing the color of the sun, she describes the moment that she's experiencing. And then the word that she is inspired to think of after this experience with this woman, the word remember. And she begins to contemplate love, whether it was unguarded face of love or the red gash down the middle of the warring country I was traveling through, or this exhausted farm woman's promise of untold tales that bewitched me, I couldn't say. Over it all rose and remains all the injunction to remember. This, the most impossible command we lay upon ourselves, claimed me and then perversely disappeared, trailing an elusive silken tissue of meaning without giving a story, refusing to leave me in peace. This is a beautiful way of putting together what it is that writers are always trying to achieve, which is trying to convey a story or an experience that is shared, and then putting that into words that not only poetic, but also relative to some degree. So I think that's super, super interesting, because I've had this experience before where the nature of the moment all of a sudden calls me to want to try my best to remember it. So that's super, super intimate of a moment. And at the last part of the story, in the last portion of the story, she goes on to describe how the quote by the woman, "Oh, I could tell you the stories," would be a perfect memoir opening line, the memoirist's opening line, almost like a once upon a time for a storyteller. And then she goes on to describe the difference between even fictional and non-fictional writers and memoirists. The difference between telling a story and conveying a personal experience of consciousness itself. So she's literally discussing this phenomena that's taking place, or this experience that's taking place from the writer's perspective and from the reader's perspective, the shared experience. It's very, 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 very passionate, I believe. She goes on to the contextual verbiage and how it conveys a sort of a primitive storyteller search for an audience, I could tell. So she's actually kind of saying that the woman is being a little ambitious and arrogant in wanting to share her stories. And then it goes on to describe the nature of autobiography writing and the reason for storytelling and the levels of authenticity, whether you are bedeviling somebody, beguiling someone with a story, or you're actually sharing authentic news, like in the New York Times Magazine, whether you're actually the age of literary memoir in the New York magazines. Fiction, he claimed, isn't delivering the news, memoir is. So they're making an argument that that memoir is a new wave for historical storytelling and not creative nonfiction. She goes back to how remembering is a sort of like a temptation for the moment. She's being very present in the moment, very captivated by the moment she just recognized between this passionate romance between this man and this woman. She still, again, she comes back from her contemplation and her reminiscence, and she is looking out the Greyhound window at the red morning, and she's now back remembering that memory as she refers to as the improbable face of love. And the cryptic remark of the beloved as she sat next to her. So it's very interesting, the fascination that this author has for that one particular moment that she shared with this woman. She even criticizes the woman, saying that she took the way that she was being loved for granted just by how easily it was for her to be loved in general. Very, very, very introspective piece. she goes right to the moment where the woman is falling asleep and refers to it as a wistful moment right before she closed her eyes and she was looking pensive in the red morning rising over the Mississippi. So there's a lot of presence, a lot of conscious awareness of the present moment, and then putting that into a descriptive scene and describing the imagery of the existential moment and that she is having, inspired by the intimate embrace that she just witnessed between these two outside characters. And then that is the end of this story. The boastful little decoration, pathetically conditional, not I'll tell you a story, but I could, wavered wistfully for an instant between us. The stranger's remark, launched in the dark of the Greyhound, floated across the human landscape like the lingering tone of a struck bell from a village church, and joined all the silence that ever was, as I turned my face to the window where the world was rushing by along the slow river. It's just a beautiful, beautiful written short story. And I'm just enamored by it. So there it is. That's Red Sky in the Morning. Patricia Hampel. It really inspires me to want to start writing from a creative nonfictional standpoint, from first person perspective, and possibly start going into the depths of memoir writing and creative nonfiction, because my specific specialty is in fiction and sci-fi. So with that, thank you, and